Shalom and welcome to Jerusalem Studio. As the Israel-Hamas war leaves behind its first month and the effective missile defense positioned by the Israel Air Force manages to minimize civilian casualties within Israel's borders, world attention is disproportionately focused on the plight of Palestinians caught in the crossfire in Gaza. It is convenient for outsiders to put aside the horrendous massacre and the mass abduction which occurred on October 7th. But they must not be filed away, as there are over 241 hostages of all ages, including infants and children, that are being currently cruelly held by Hamas and others in Gaza. As well as victims of the Hamas attack on that savage Saturday are in the slow process of recovering from their physical and mental wounds while being displaced here internally in Israel. This dimension of the war will be discussed today. And for that, TV7's editor-at-large, Mr. Amir Oren, take it away.
If there is one consensus in Israel today, both rational and emotional, is that the Israeli government should do everything in its power and beyond to get the 240 plus, perhaps 41 or 42 hostages back, no matter the cost. No matter what sort of a deal, it must strike in order to get the loved ones of the people we are going to have a conversation with back safely to their families. They have suffered for a month now. Their families have been in anguish. And while at first it seemed as if the Israeli government wanted to strike at Hamas, regardless of what happens to the hostages, the tables were turned. The entire Israeli public is behind the hostages and the families. And many people are also familiar with the hostages or with some of the other victims who were brutally murdered on, as you said, that savage Sabbath. So we have with us survivors of this Sabbath and relatives. Sometimes the relative is the survivor. Let's turn to them and hear their stories.
Absolutely. We'll turn first to Mrs. Michal Rahav. Michal, tell us your story.
October 7th, 6 o'clock in the morning, alarms started going off on our applications on our phones, red alerts in our community. We're jumping out of bed, running to the safe room. Our house is located at the last line of houses in the kibbutz. After my house, it's only the fence, agriculture fields, and then the Gaza Strip. So we also hear missiles being fired towards the middle part of Israel, Tel Aviv, and that area. And we immediately understand that this is something really, really big and different from other escalations that we have experienced ever since we lived in Nirim. And my husband, he's a police officer in an operational unit. He's also in a reserve unit in a Gaza division. So he left the safe room to get ready to be called because he understood that he would be needed on duty. So he got dressed with his uniform and weapons. And I'm telling my children in the safe room, we don't have time to pack. We don't have time for anything. Just get dressed, put on some shoes. Once we get in the moment, we're running to the car and we're leaving. And all this time, still, the bombings, rockets being fired, alarms going off. It doesn't stop for a second. And I'm going in and out of the safe room, getting my son's shoes, getting my daughter's some clothes to wear. And at one point, I'm standing in my bedroom, and we hear gunshots really, really close to us, something we've never heard before. And we're looking at each other, my husband and I, we're like, what is this gunshots in the kibbutz? I mean, is this the army? Why is the army shooting? And then we hear shouting in Arabic a lot. And we understand that we have terrorists in the kibbutz, like next to my house. I'm running back to the safe room. I'm putting on my children vests. I'm giving them weapons. I'm giving my older daughter a pepper spray. My middle daughter, I'm giving her a club. And my son, I'm giving him a helmet with the straps inside, telling him to hold it. I don't tell them that they're terrorists, but I tell them that whatever comes through that door, we fight. We fight to the end. Just fight as hard as you can. I'm with you. Don't give up. And all this time, we're hearing now the shooting inside my house, just beyond the safe room's door. And it's getting closer and closer. And then my husband comes in the safe room and closes the door, and he said, I just shot a terrorist. He tried to get into the house. And as he was finishing the sentence, they started shooting at the safe room's door with their rifles. And then after a few seconds, there was this enormous blast, and the whole safe room was filled with smoke and gunpowder smell, and our ears were ringing, and the electricity was cut, so we were in the dark. And then they started shooting at the safe room's window behind us. And we don't have time to understand what's going on. I just struggle to stand up. My husband picks me up. He gives me a gun. And we look at each other and we said that we're fighting until the last bullet. Whatever comes through that door, it doesn't pass us. We fight. We protect our kids no matter what. And to me, he says quietly, we die. We don't go as hostages. And we're standing there side by side with our weapons pointed at the door and just waiting for them to come in. And I don't know why. I don't know how to explain it. They decided to move on. And we're sitting there like that for hours, just with our guns pointed to the door, our kids completely silent and they don't move. And we're in the dark. On the group WhatsApp of the kibbutz, we understand that they're going through the houses. Some houses are being burned. People hear the terrorists in their house breaking stuff, trying to open the safe room's door. There are a lot of stories of people holding the handle of the door. We couldn't hold the handle because the explosion caused the door to tilt a bit, and we were too concerned to open it because we didn't know what was going on or what was waiting for us after that door. And my husband's getting messages from neighbors and friends in the kibbutz saying, Lee, please come help us. You have to save us. Please, they're here. We don't know what to do. And, we're sitting there helpless and frustrated because we also don't know what's waiting for us behind that door, and we don't have any information. We don't know why this started. We don't know what's going on. We don't hear the army. Living where we live, you're very used to hearing all sorts of explosion and bullets, and you know how to, um, when it's the army, when it's not. And we're not hearing anything. And we just hear them going back and forth and shooting all the time. And after hours, towards the evening, finally the army came and they rescued us. And we're opening the door and I see that my whole house is devastated and destroyed. They threw at us grenades and shot an RPG. There's nothing to be salvaged. The soldiers told us, just go, leave. We have to leave now because we don't know if there's still terrorists in the kibbutz or in the area, and we can't stay here. We have to move on. So they take us to the middle of the kibbutz, to the community center there, and we're waiting there with the rest of the people. And as the hours go by, more and more people join us. And about 24 hours later, we're evacuated from the kibbutz to Eilat, where we've been ever since that day for a month now.
So you have been displaced, actually, Michal. Not only did you suffer that day, but for the last month too. And your kibbutz Nirim, just like Chena Vigdori's kibbutz, Be'eri, were set up on October the 6th, 1946, almost
Right.
exactly to the day.
Yes, the 11 points. Mm-hmm.
Right. So Chen, your story is even more devastating than Michal's. Please, what happened to your family?
First of all, any story is different. We are not in a competition.
Sure, of course.
Suffer. Every story is a unique story. Every story is something else, and I don't want to compare my suffer to anyone else suffer. My story. I'm not from Kibbutz Be'eri. My wife and my daughter, Noam, which is 12 years old, they went to visit my wife's brother, Avshalom, in Kibbutz Be'eri. We do it in the summertime. We're doing at least once a month, getting down to the south, a little bit of pastoralic view, quiet, and everything that the kibbutz on Sunday can offer you. This time we decided that only the girls. I have also one boy who is 16 years old, and we decided that the girls should go alone. And so they went. They went to visit Avshalom Haran family, and my 12 years old Noam, she like to treat other people, and she don't have a younger sister or younger brother, so she used the opportunity to be a big sister to Yahel and Noam, which is the niece and nephew. My October the 7th was quiet until I woke up by the alarms. My mother told me that something is going on Be'eri. I tried to contact them. The last contact was on approximately 10 o'clock when she said, "We are going into the safe room. Everything is going to be good. Don't worry about us." After a few minutes, I talked with her brother and I asked him, "Tell me frankly what's going on." He said, "There is a big mess in the kibbutz. We hope we will came through it." And this was the last message. Since then, we haven't heard from them. We have no tapes, no videos, no audios, no nothing. The army was told us for quite some time, something like almost 2 weeks, that they were missing. There was no information about them. This was the hard part. And after 2 weeks, they announced that they got kidnapped in a certain certainty. It's almost sure, but intelligence, they are never sure, but in some sureness level. And since then, we haven't heard from them. I have two missions now. I have the mission to get my girls back, and I have the mission to keep I call it my handicap family. I have 2 out of 4. I have a 16-year-old boy, and we are dealing with this horrible situation together. And we try to stay strong.
Thank you, Chen. I'd like to highlight again over 240 separate individuals, entire worlds, have been kidnapped by this horrendous Islamist terrorist organization called Hamas and its stooges. And as Michal also noted before, she's one part of one family of over 150,000 Israelis who are internally displaced at this moment. Within that category, obviously, if we're talking about international law, that's the definition of being a refugee. Let's turn also...
But one should add that several members of Chen's extended family were murdered that day.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, in our extended family, there are 10 people that was in the kibbutz that day. 3 of them, unfortunately, got murdered by Hamas terrorists because they was in the front line of the kibbutz. And my daughter and my wife are kidnapped all along with 5 more other members. All include, we have 3 murders and 7 kidnaps. Between them, another two kids that my daughter used to play with. A kid called Nave, which is 8 years old, and the kid called Yahel, which is 3 years old.
Let's join also Leon Yanai into the conversation, whose sister
Hello.
was at a festival along the border when the heinous crimes occurred. And they were the first point when the abhorrent terrorists launched their onslaught, butchering some 1,400, mostly civilians. Leon, if you could provide us your story and that of your sister.
Yeah, Moran, a wonderful person, a beautiful person. She's also a young jewelry designer. She built out a new line of jewelry designs that she wanted to sell on the festival. So she was very happy to do it. On Saturday morning, when the attack started, my parents tried to call her. Eventually, my father managed to talk to her about around 8 o'clock in the morning. She told him that they're being bombed, that there's a lot of people shooting at them, that she's on the run with her friends. He tried to tell her to calm down and to lie down and to look for cover, but the phone got disconnected. Later on, my mother managed to call her at around 8:30. Moran told her that they're still on the run. She was scared, she was crying, she was in panic, breathless. She told her that they're being shot at and that they're on the run and that she's losing her battery. That was the last call from Moran. Later on, we tried to understand what happened there, and we collected testimonies from friends. We found 2 friends that ran with her. They told us the story that while they were running, they've been ambushed a few times by terrorists, and each time they had to run to the other direction. Eventually, they had to run into the bushlands, and there they've been ambushed again, and they had to speed up. And that's the last point we know that Moran was, where Moran was. We tried to do anything, family and friends. We scanned the internet. We scanned a social network, and we found a TikTok clip, which shows that Moran been abducted. In the clip, you can see there just lying near a bush on the ground, begging for her life, with terrified look in her eyes, with a couple of the kidnappers above her, cursing her, calling her names, and that's it. That's the last evidence that we know about Moran. Since then, we have no idea what's happening with her. For 32 days now, we have no information about her condition.
What is the Red Cross doing? Considering the fact that there was a call by Israel for the Red Cross to at least receive a certain sign of life, something that will reassure the families to the degree that reassurance can be met in such a heinous circumstance.
Well, of course, the Hamas leaders disregard all international entreaties. They don't care about the Red Cross unless they want something for themselves. They are being brutal. They, of course, are contravening all international laws, and there is no power that has been able to enforce it on them. Obviously, there are some deals being hatched in back channels, but one cannot expect any international organization, being the United Nations, the Red Cross, to act. Let's hear what our guests
Indeed, Michal, if you could provide us with, firstly, very briefly, if I may, insight of how you're contending with current realities, and what is the government's response?
Well, first of all, I agree. All hostages must be brought home now, today, right this minute, at any cost. This is not something we can bear, not something we can live with, and they have to be home. And next, I don't think, I want, it's a must as well, that Hamas must be eradicated completely. I intend on going back home, and I don't want Hamas as my neighbor anymore. I want peace and quiet. I don't want to use the safe room, and I don't want to rely on Iron Dome anymore. I want them to be eradicated. I want the Palestinian people, whoever's going to be left in the Gaza Strip, understand that it's better for them to live with us at peace. They will have a better life than to support Hamas. This message also goes to every government in the world. They have to understand that this is something that we cannot allow, because it's not just for our area, it's for our whole country. And once they finish with our country, how they say, the West is next. So that's from what I think.
Indeed. Mr. Avigdori?
I'm not an strategic, I'm not a military expert, so I don't want to mess with the how question. The thing which is more important to me is the what question. And the what is very clear. No nation should overlook what happened on 7th of October. No nation should look about the fact that innocent people, girls, boys, little kids, babies, elderly, people with special needs, all kidnapped from their bed in a non-dispute territory, which is very clear that this is Israel and there is no dispute about the land over there. They were kidnapped from their home without doing anything, and they're now being held in the Gaza Strip. I think this is a humane situation. This is not a political situation. This is not a Jew thing. This is not an Israeli thing. This is an humane situation. No kids should be in captivity. No woman should be in captivity. This is out of context of anything that you might learn about the conflict, and you might think you know about the conflict. This my plea to my government and every other government and the civilians that think that they are humane and they are for human rights, first and foremost, you've got to get these people back home. This is the first thing that our country should do. This is the first thing that every country should press on everybody to do. This is beyond everything.
Thank you.
And even if it takes several more days to effect it, communications with them and medication, if they need it, must be handled immediately.
That's captivity one-on-one. I don't know how to call it. This is you stating the obvious, but of course, when with this terrorist scums, I'm sorry, I don't get the words right. This is the first. It's like it's almost common knowledge, and everybody should do it. But I have to come on TV and say that this is the basic of humanity.
All those morals and values that so many leaders in the West are talking about, being the champions thereof. Here's your chance to prove it. Mr. Yanai, I'd like to hear your take on that.
The government of Israel is the one who is responsible for it, and she needs to release the hostages and do whatever it can about it, and to take all measures to bring them back. Beside that, I'm addressing the international community, the international leaders, to ask the Red Cross to urge them to demand that they will visit the hostages, because it's for 32 days now. We don't know what happened with them. We don't know what their condition. We're talking here about elderly people, babies, wounded people, sick people, people who need medical attention. We don't know what their situation, not mentally and not physically. And first of all, we must know that. The second thing I'm asking from the international community, especially the individuals, you must understand what happened here in Israel. This is not an Israeli-Palestinian issue. We're talking here about innocent people, people that went to work, people that were lying in their beds, people that wanted to enjoy a peaceful music festival and celebrate peace and love. Those people were attacked so brutally and taken as hostages. It's not something that anyone in the world who believes that it can happen should stand up and make and do something about it, and support the fight against this kind of behavior. We must do it because today it's in Israel, tomorrow it can be anywhere in the world, and we don't want it to happen. We must be united against this behavior, and we need to prevent it and make it disappear from this world.
Michal, we have less than a minute left, and therefore I'd like to ask you, if millions are watching right now all over the world, how can they help you?
First of all, stop supporting Hamas and stop chanting that free Palestine. You have to free the world of Hamas, first of all. You have to understand this is a terror group. Like Chen and Leon said, nobody can stand by while this terror group exists. So that's first of all. Second of all, support us. Understand that we are humane. We didn't ask for this attack. They attacked us first. They have children. They have 3-year-old babies over there. This is not something anybody can go on living with this reality. We have to do, the international community has to demand the release of all hostages now, this moment. And then they have to support us with our fight.
Thank you, Michal. Thank you, Leon and Chen, and I pray for the quick return also of your loved ones very, very soon. Thank you also, Mr. Oren. And thank you to all of you at home. Stand with Israel. Look what you can do in order to pressure your own governments, in order to bring these people home and to ensure that such an atrocity never happens again. From here in Jerusalem, until our next update, Shalom.